this year. And it was one of those like, gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. But like, it was also like, I had no stress about it. I wasn't worried about when I was going to do it. I wasn't worried about how I was going to do it. But I also got to spend time with my family and be a happier person for 3 hours of work that I subbed out very inexpensively, quite frankly. I looked at the whole total cost of what Christmas was for our family. And so, but you have to be able to execute on that, and you have to be transparent with that customer, and you have to understand everybody's getting busier. And I think that was the point at the Christmas party where she looked at me and she's like, what a shame that you don't have time to enjoy the art of wrapping presents for your children. I didn't really clap back at it because I understood where she was coming from, because it was different, back in her day. But like, we are all expected to do much more than we were ever expected to do.
I bet numerous times a day do we hear that. You're charging how much? Like, I don't even make that, right? Or I could do that myself. Anytime I hear that, you very much can do it yourself, right? But to your point, if your kid is playing in that little league game, what's the value of your time to stay at home and clean your house or go to that your child's game? If your kid hits 3 home runs and they cross the plate and they're looking for mom and dad,
you need to be there, and you got to see that. I mean, my parents were there for that too. So I don't know how they did it all. That is the hardest part about being an owner. And I'll get emotional just talking about it, but missing some of those moments because you kind of had to be somewhere else. And so, and that's even in a working environment too. If you work for somebody, you're not going to be at every Christmas program. You're not going to be at every room mothers or room fathers, event. My kids do that to me. Like, where were you? We had the Valentine's Day party and you weren't there. And I'm like, there was mellow mushroom pizza. Like, wasn't that enough? Like, I sent my driver to get you pizza. Like, you were represented by your parents. We're providing something that somebody can do at home. You can eat at home. You can make your own food at home, and you can eat at home, and it could probably be a little bit cheaper, but you're not getting that experience. You're not getting that enjoyment. You're not being able just to, there's nothing better. I get my house cleaned, and I have been for 10 years. There's nothing better than walking into my house. It's like a movie, like you go to bed and the house is a mess, and you wake up and the house is clean,
Yeah,
like Home Alone.
exactly.
His house was clean by the time his parents got home. How is that possible? I've been really focused on experiences, right? If we're going to charge a high premium for a cocktail, it's going to be a handcrafted cocktail. You're going to muddle the mint leaf. You're going to show the excitement. You're going to shake it, shake it, shake it. And you're going to slightly pour it with delicacy. You're going to have fine, I literally have golden crusted or dried orange slices on one of my margaritas. Like, you need to be telling people that there's gold in this margarita.
Right. Yeah.
Like, this is a wonderful thing. How many people know that? Not many. Being able to, have those experiences and have those services provided for us are really, I don't know, they're becoming more and more common, right? And I don't know, we eat out a lot as a family, and we take advantage of subbing out as much stuff as that we possibly can. And it just makes sense for us because we can spend time. And I'll be honest too, about it 2 years ago, I kind of turned to my husband. I'm like, we got to stop eating out so much. Like, it's like, and he's like, the only time we spend together as a family is when we're sitting in a booth, like eating dinner. Like, if we eat dinner at home, we're not going to do it together. And I'm like, okay, I'll meet you at that restaurant in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I'll be coming from this soccer practice. He'll be coming from this baseball practice, and we sit down and have dinner. And if we ordered to go, we would probably be eating, in our rooms, or the kids would be eating in their rooms, and we wouldn't have spent that time together. And I don't know, for me, it's all about quality of life and holding on to like the small bits of time that you have and making them worthwhile.
When planning for your future, do you feel confident, connected, and in control of your financial life? The right financial advice can help prepare you for whatever life brings, both the expected and the unexpected. Let Julio Mendez at Ameriprise Advisors help put you on a path to future financial health. From retirement planning strategies, life insurance, to business retirement plans, and more. Everyone's financial path is different. Let Julio Mendez and Ameriprise Advisors find the path that's right for you. Call 314-657-2867 or go to ameripriseadvisors.com.
I love to like maybe even dive deeper and talk about like kind of reviewing back maybe in 6 months too on where we're at, because that's really where I wanted to go on a lot of this, but we kind of got on a tangent. We didn't really get on a tangent. There's just so much to talk about. But reviewing the budget and looking back and maybe like even talking about how to kind of set some of those budgets.
That's where I think it all starts is, it's a progress that you have to set and set a realistic budget, right? You kind of have to use detail that you've had to say, in your business, hey, last year I had $100,000 of repairs and, maintenance. Well, okay, this year I know the price went up at everything. So
Right.
instead of 100, it's going to be 125. Plus, I know that one machine's on its last leg. It might last this year. It might not last this year. But let's go ahead and say 150 because that one might die out, right? And it's setting those budgets that are realistic budgets from the beginning and spending, like you said, I think what you mentioned earlier, I think is a very important piece. And it comes with, I think, business maturity. And sometimes when we start a business or we're fresh into a business, we have to be there working. You have to learn the industry. You have to learn what it is. Once we kind of get there and now we're working on the business, not so much in it, you hit it right on the head. Having that monthly meeting, it forces you to do it. If you set that up with your accountant or your bookkeeper, or, in my case, really, I'm all of that for myself.
Yourself. Yeah.
But I still have to like put time on my calendar that's I'm reviewing at this time for the last month or and it forces you to do it. And that's where having the accountability behind ourselves to set that. If we have a bad January, we're looking at it February 5th, and now we can make sure we don't have a bad February.
Right.
And we stop it short. We stay on, we've set a realistic budget. We're looking line item by line item. Some line items are, yeah, that looks good. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, whoa, what happened here?
Right.
That's where you put some time and effort into, right?
Yeah.
But having the realistic budget from the beginning is what, if you don't have a solid foundation, nothing else is going to take flight.
Right.
It's just not going to be good. So, everything, I can see, in the list that, you and I had originally started with, that's why it's important. Again, if you've got a good budget in place, now you can manage to that budget. So now you can have the conversation with your managers. This is where I want to see us, and now you can change the rhetoric and change the conversation. It's not just me, and that's where I've been. I don't just talk to my employee, my managers and say, hey guys, we were here and I need to see you here. I flip it and I kind of say, here's what I've taught you to look at. Here's where, so now next month you come to me and tell me, where did you hit? Did you hit your budget? Did you hit your goal? And the leaving room for slack. I mean, I think that's what the example I put with the piece of machinery.
Yeah. Because you can never, and that's another thing too, is, some of those things, are going to happen. Like I need to get my parking lot sealed this year.
Yeah.
Well, okay. We're going to have the budget for it,
Yeah.
and that's what, it was my general manager. He's like, we need to get this parking lot sealed. It's kind of looking like, and I'm like, I agree, but we need a budget for it. I need 3 quotes and we need to decide who we're going to pick. And then we've got to build it into the budget this year. And that's going to be your responsibility, because it's very easy, I think, too, for a lot of the managers and the employees that we have just to look at you and pay for it. The computer's not working. We need a new one.
Yep.
Okay. Hold up. Can we back up the storage? Can we clean it up a little bit? Like, have you just pressed restart? Like, is there an update?
It's funny that you use that, just buy a new one. One of the acquisitions I took over, and I wish I could exaggerate when I say this, but there were like 12 computer messes. And, it's a low cost item, but literally, I think if they would have just changed the batteries in one of the mice, it would have been fine. But the mouse quit working. Just go buy a new one, right?
Oh my gosh.
what, 10 to $20 for a new mouse. So, I mean, why have 20, or,
But it's
why,
those types of decisions, right? So it's not going to be 20 mouses over the course of a year, but it's those types of decisions. I had a manager come in yesterday. He's like, we're really low on cheese. We're not getting our truck today. I'm going to run to the store and buy cheese. The hell you are. Like,
yeah,
I mean, like, A, you can't buy the cheese that we have in the store. And two, how many bags of mozzarella do you think you're going to be getting at Schnucks? Like, no,
right.
no, no, you are not. And like, I appreciate you being aware, but you're going to go back there and we're going to portion out cheese to the ounce if that's what we're going to do. Cause we're, for the record, we're putting way too much cheese on most of our slice or our food anyway. So there's always overages. And I was like, no, 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 but sometimes I start thinking about, I'm like, if I wasn't here, would you have just
Hmm.
gone and done it anyways? And that employee thinks that they're doing the right thing. And I'm not saying that it wasn't the right thing, but it was the most expensive decision. Then I'm like, I had to reel it back. And I was like, no, 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 no.
I always try to drill into my manager's head, like, what would Doug do? Like that's and all the while not micromanaging them. In my
Right,
mind, I always try to look at it, whatever, if the job gets done 80% of the way I would do it, that's a good job.
right.
Just
Yeah.
squeeze it
Well,
down a
we've
little bit.
even, and I've just been presenting it to also like, listen, every time an employee thinks that like they can just go and grab a Red Bull, they're going
Mhm.
into my purse
Yes.
and they are stealing $2, plain and simple. Because the only person that bought that Red Bull was me. Like
Yeah.
if I offered them a Red Bull, that's another conversation. But if they think that like I worked a double or they worked a double and they deserve a Red Bull, that means that they thought they deserved to go into my purse and steal $2. That's all it is. Like
Yeah.
plain and simple. Because that Red Bull was purchased
Yeah.
and it is a $4 Red Bull. So really they're stealing my profits and they're stealing my expenses.
Right.
And that's, I'm like, listen, in 2024, we are not running a business for fun. We are not. And I will not be running my business just because somebody thinks that, this is just what we do it for a living. Like this is going to have to be a business and this is going to have to be the corporate world of and people look at it, it's like, oh, no big deal. Like,
Oh,
I'll,
yeah, they
here's
don't see the
here's seven
individual.
extra napkins, like you said. Like, okay, like it was one person, one plate of wings. They only needed two napkins. And they're
Yeah.
healthy size napkins. They're not. So I look at that. I'm like, one napkin per person. And I know people think it's crazy, but like if they ask for another napkin, it's one napkin for per person. It's a table of four napkins. Give them four napkins a second time. Give them four napkins a third time. It's your job to serve them. Ask them if
Right.
it's enough. If you can tell if they need a napkin, go get them a napkin. And so the paper goods
In the
and
grand
just
scheme of things, right? The customer is going to feel more served by, man, they noticed that I needed a napkin and they brought me a napkin versus, hey, here's a big wad of napkins I don't want to see
right.
you
And the
again.
worst is like that wad of napkins that are full of like grossness that you also be taking those napkins away, throw them in the trash can for them, keep the table
Yeah.
clean. So, but it's a lot of those like 10-second decisions that happen over and over and over that are very costly to any business. Like you said, the vacuum is it's so funny that you mentioned that. Like, right, am I picking the vacuum up, taking it to the next room, or am I just dragging it by its cord? And you're right. If 3, 4, 500 times a day, I'm not well, 3, 4, 5 times a day, times 7 days a week or 5 days a week, times 52 weeks a year.
Yep.
How and I'd always talk about that with the restaurant in like the toilets or the doors.
Yeah.
Like that door, if I serve 300 customers today, that door was opened probably if 2 or 3 people walk in at the same time, 150 times. So that door handle gets touched and pulled on 150 to 200 times a day, times 365 days a year. That door handle is going to break. And
Yep.
who in the world thinks about how many times I'm going to have to fix my door handle in a restaurant?
Yeah.
I've been there. I've had to fix that door handle twice now in 5 years.
And even
So
just, the working of the door. So, to that point, like, okay, making sure that those screws are kept tight, you know, and they
Right.
keep having to fix the door.